Assalamu alaikum. Today I want to share some very helpful mindset shifts with you today that have helped me to change my life by Allah's permission and that have helped hundreds of others change their life by Allah's permission. And the things I'm going to teach you today don't just apply to fitness, they apply to every other area of your life universally. And I want to remind you that a lot of the times we are one mindset shift away by Allah's permission from unlocking a whole new world of possibilities and results, again, in our fitness journey and in every other area of our life. And so I want to just give you some examples of the big mistakes people make in fitness and other areas of life that mess them up. And then we're going to talk about solutions and everything else. But it's very enlightening to see what not to do to really set the stage for what to do, right? So, first off, a lot of us have very unrealistic expectations. For example, in fitness, when it comes to, David Goggins, military, all this other stuff, you see these people who are working so hard, doing all this sacrifice, their whole life revolves around fitness. It comes at the expense of everything else. How bad do you want it? Are you willing to sacrifice your family and everything else? Like, come on, we're doing this for our families. We want to be healthier for our kids. We're not trying to become this one-dimensional, military fit guy. And I'm not saying that that's who David Goggins is. I'm just saying most of us don't have 2 hours to stretch every night and 8 hours to run every day, right? I mean, that's just the craziest example, right? But you see a lot of people on social media because, of course, extremeness gets views, but the real way to get fit is actually a lot more moderate and realistic than that, and it does require you to figure out for yourself, or obviously get the guidance as to what is a realistic expectation for you and a balance that allows you to still push yourself, because you are still going to need to push yourself to a degree, but not in a way that feels overwhelming, but rather in a way that feels enjoyably challenging, and you feel accomplished, but you never feel overwhelmed. You never feel like it's impossible. It always feels very realistic, and you feel accomplished throughout the entire journey. That's the key. That instant gratification of the process while you get the delayed gratification of the results while still enjoying your life. So I want you to ponder upon this question, which is, where else in my life, your life, and by my, I mean you as the first person, right? Where does the same analogy apply? Does it apply to parenting? Does it apply to your professional life? Does it apply to Deen? Does it apply to marriage? Where are you in your life currently possibly trying to force a process that is not actually sustainable for you, where you can find better balance to get better results and better consistency over time with less burnout, less resentment, more positivity, more enjoyment of that process? Okay, next up, the other second half to this, and look, there's actually multiple mistakes, and we're going to cover the solutions for all of them today, inshallah. Unrealistic expectations for the result. So a lot of times we lack patience, and this is also due to social media and all this other stuff that we see around us, such as, people who lose 50 pounds in 2 weeks or something crazy like that, liposuction, instant gratification, take this pill and immediately lose all of your belly fat in 2 seconds. Like, that's the type of marketing that we're seeing every single day. So it really sets us up with the wrong expectations, to where if we're losing weight at an actually good rate, we may be disappointed by that because we're expecting to lose some radical amount because of our efforts. But the reality is, real weight loss happens at a consistent rate. Like, I mean, obviously, maybe you've seen some of the results and transformations on my page, like 20 pounds in 90 days, 30 pounds in 90 days, stuff like that. But 90 days is not like instant, right? Like, that's 3 months, right? So, that could be less than 10 pounds a month in many cases. I'm going to tell you the exact parameters and stuff like that. But the point is, we obviously know in Islam when we need to have sabr, right? Islam is the ultimate delayed gratification because we get Jannah after we die, right? So you don't get to experience the gratification your whole life unless you taste the sweetness of Iman. And that's a big thing I want us all to remember, is when you enjoy the process. Like, same thing with your prayers. If you're just praying so you go to Jannah when you die, that's great. But if you're also praying because you want to feel closer with Allah immediately, that instant gratification, now you're enjoying the process and the result. So now this applies to our Deen as well. So we're not just getting fit over here, we're becoming closer with Allah, and that's infinitely more valuable. So set realistic goals and targets, which we're going to talk about today, and apply this to other areas of your life. How can I enjoy the process and the result and make it realistic on both ends? And again, if you have no perspective for what is the realistic result, I'm going to tell you what that is in fitness today, but in other areas of your life, look at, like, let's say you're trying to get your business to a certain level or progress to a certain level in your career. Like, let's say somebody came to you and said, hey, I want to become a doctor. Can I become a doctor right now from watching some YouTube videos? No, you got to go to school for like 10 years to become a doctor, right? Business, same thing. People are like, oh, can I just watch one video or a couple videos online and then do some stuff and make money online? No, it takes most people many years. I mean, of course, you see like those 22-year-old kids who just all of a sudden they make $1 million, but that's the exception to the rule. There's plenty of people who didn't make money till their 40s, right? So again, you just gotta have those realistic expectations and speak to an expert in whichever area that you're looking to know what is that realistic result. Okay, but I'll narrow it down to fitness. I just want to give you analogies that apply to other areas and get you to ponder, right? But perfectionism, right? So a lot of the times, this is the third big mistake that we make mindset-wise, and so we're going to talk about what to do instead of this, but we often expect ourselves to somehow magically have this flawless execution and knowledge, which causes us to procrastinate because we're trying to gather all the info before we take any action. But then, and then if we do slip up to even a small degree, we easily give up and get discouraged. And so we don't want to make the barrier to entry too high, and we don't want to give up too quickly at the first sign of trouble. We want to leave room for failure and learn to grow from that failure. And the beautiful thing is that when we embrace the fact that there's going to be some failures and setbacks along the journey, it opens us up to a growth and solutions oriented mindset and a patient mindset, as opposed to an impatient, fixed mindset that's only focused on the problems. One thing goes wrong and the whole thing falls apart. No, we don't want to set up a house of cards here. We want to set up a beautiful building with deep foundations, right? Just like how Allah created the mountains as pegs, where they go deep into the ground, which is why the mountains have so much stability and sturdiness. We want to have that inside of our fitness journey too. Now, ironically, when I think about this, I think about my journey with fatherhood, right? And we'll talk about some examples, right? This is going to apply to parenting, whether you're a mom or a dad. Like today, I got an email from my kid's teacher that he had misbehaved. I got angry. We did some research, found it was normal, but I had to remind myself not to be angry at myself and think, oh, I need to be perfect. My kid needs to be perfectly behaved, or reflects poorly on me. Whatever, screw this. I'm giving up on fatherhood. No. We don't have that silly mindset in these areas. So again, we want to apply the right mindset in other areas. Let's say you slip up deen-wise. Guess what? Allah encourages us to make lots of forgiveness, and Allah is the most forgiving, right? So we should also forgive ourselves and move forward from these things and not get lost in the negativity. And there's lots of hadiths, and I'll pull in some hadiths as well for some of the other points. There are definitely some hadiths on this as well. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know there's some hadiths on like bouncing back from failure and not getting down. Like even my favorite hadith, my favorite fitness related hadith: the strong believer is more beloved to Allah than the weak believer, but there is goodness in both of them. When something befalls you, do not say if only, because that opens up the way for shaitan. Rather, look back and say qadar Allah ma shafa'al, right? What Allah will has happened. So any mistakes that you make, guess what? That was the will of Allah. So what are you going to do? Are you going to, be mad at the qadar? No, that's actually, part of iman is to have, faith and be, and accept the qadar no matter what has happened to you. And then from there, we learn and we grow. And there's also the hadith that when Allah wills good for somebody, He afflicts them with trials. So if you're going through trials and challenges right now, it's a good thing. It's a sign that Allah has willed good for you. So now it's up to you to pass that test and please Allah and get the good deeds and the growth in the journey by being positive and succeeding. So back to fitness, right? Start small, build gradually, give yourself some grace. And if you do things right 80% of the time, you can afford to do them wrong 20% of the time. When you first start off, you might do things right only 20% of the time and do them wrong 80% of the time, but at least you're taking action, and 20% is better than 0%. So it's better to do something than to do nothing. But of course, obviously you're here watching my stuff right now, so you're getting the guidance, you're learning how to do things properly, so you'll probably be closer to 80% right, and then we'll figure out those 20% refinements over time, inshallah. And that's exactly what I want you to do. Learn from your mistakes, get excited about your mistakes as learning opportunities and room for growth, instead of labeling yourself as a failure and getting discouraged. Now, lastly, and really the only failure is to give up. There's no such thing as failure unless you give up. As long as you get up and keep trying, you're eventually going to win and succeed by Allah's permission, but it's only when you allow a temporary defeat to cause you to give up and lose the whole war. Like, just because you lose one battle doesn't mean that you lose the whole war, right? Like, the Prophet ﷺ, he didn't give up after the Battle of Uhud, right? So we should take that lesson from the Sunnah to go and be perseverant. In Allah ma'as sabirin, Allah is with those who are patient and perseverant. So seek comfort in patience and prayer. Patience and prayer. It's in Surah Al-Baqarah. I can't remember the exact ayah, but just search up "Verily Allah is with the patient," and you'll find that ayah from Surah Al-Baqarah. I believe it might have even been mentioned multiple times in the Quran. So the next mistake that people make with their mindset is their goals and their routine are not aligned. Okay. So a lot of times it's just due to a lack of knowledge, which is what I want to fill in for you here, obviously, with everything that we do. But we design, so the big mistake that people do is they design routines that don't align with our goals, because you may not actually understand the actual system, the science behind it, or in other areas of life, maybe it's not so scientific, that leads to the result that we want. So it's important to seek knowledge. Seek knowledge in your deen to make sure you're practicing Islam properly. Make sure that you seek knowledge in your fitness, which you're obviously doing because you're watching this video right now. Make sure that you are aligning the process with the result. We're going to talk about some specifics today, of course, but I'm just setting the foundation with some hopefully valuable tangents along the way. So people think more effort equals more results, but a lot of times in fitness and other areas of life, this is not always true. Okay, it's like a bell curve. There's a sweet spot. Like, it was funny because so our child, right? He's very young. He was asking me, the older you get, the faster you get. And I was like, well, to a certain point. But then when you get really old, you get slower. There's kind of like a bell curve. There's a sweet spot, right? And obviously he's very young, so his brain is still forming. So he's asking these questions about the world. But the point is, like, for us, a lot of times we think, oh, if I go harder, if I eat even less calories, if I do even more cardio, I'll get more results. No, there's a point where your body and mind burn out. There's a bell curve. There's a sweet spot along this curve. There's one side where you're too lazy. There's a sweet spot of effort and success. And then there's the burnout curve where you're overdoing it, right? And this applies to a lot of areas of life, not just fitness. As I said, all these lessons are universal. So there is a sweet spot. You don't want to try so hard that you burn your body and mind out, but you don't want to be so lazy and fall short of your potential or take insufficient action to even drive any results at all, which a lot of people make that mistake too. So there's people on both sides of the mistake curve there, and there is that center spot of balance and success. And then we want to balance it with other things, right? Within fitness, there's a balance of like effort versus laziness, and then between fitness and your other priorities, Deen, family, work, we got to find the balance between all these things to ensure longevity and that your fitness is positively impacting your other areas of life instead of taking away from them, right? So, like, again, it's a bell curve. If you're spending a reasonable amount of time and effort to get an energy boost, to feel more confident, to feel better, to be healthier, it positively benefits all your other areas of your life because you're more confident, more happy, more positive. You know, you're cultivating positive energy daily. You feel good. You have more energy. You have more stamina, more longevity. You're healthier. You live longer by less permission, right? Everything improves when you get fit. But if you are so obsessed with fitness that you take away family time, you miss family events, you miss your salah, astaghfirullah, that at that point, stop the fitness, get on your prayers. That's way more important, right? Go in a Jannah. But the point being, obviously that's an extreme example, but there are some people who like, you know, maybe they miss prayers for whatever reason because they're at the gym. I'll pray it later. No, don't pray it later. One of the most beloved acts to Allah is to pray at the early fixed time. So I got to remind you guys, as much as I'm trying to encourage you that fitness is important, for all the Muslims who undervalue fitness, not realizing it's part of the sunnah to be healthy, to have moderate portions in your food, everything else, I also want to remind the people who are too obsessed with fitness to find that balance, like the people who can bench press a bunch of weight, but they can't lift the covers off at Fajr. You've probably all heard these types of videos. It's true. There are people who exist who are more obsessed with fitness at the expense of their deen or other areas. So, of course, whatever end of the spectrum you're on, find that balance. All right. So solutions. So number one, I'm gonna lay them out for you. Then we're gonna go in depth with them, and then of course I can go even more in depth in other videos if there's any point you want me to go deeper into. But solutions. So redefine a realistic process and realistic results. The first one we're gonna dive into after I lay these out for you. Start small and build momentum and starting so big and burning out. You can always increase, but you know, decrease, and you could always decrease too. Actually, if you've been burning yourself out, right? But the point is, the smart way to start that I find works best for everybody who I've helped with this, alhamdulillah, and for myself, whenever I embark upon something new or embark upon any kind of change, or even during times where I've gotten like flabby and needed to get back in shape, you got to start small instead of starting too big and burning yourself out, right? There's a certain level of commitment you start with, but it isn't like, you know, it shouldn't be unrealistic, right? Make your routine adaptable and flexible on other life circumstances that you need to balance for, and have a minimum viable standard and a maximal viable standard for the time for the days where you have extra time and energy without burning out, right? So like, let's say that, you know, you're very all or nothing, you have to do fitness perfect or you're not going to do it at all. No, we don't want that all or nothing mindset. That's that perfectionism that is stopping you from taking action, actually causing less results, even though perfectionism theoretically should get you more results if you're doing it more perfect. No, action is more important than perfection. Okay. And oh, there it is, progress over perfection. Alhamdulillah. I mean, I designed these slides, so I guess my brain is congruent with itself from a couple hours ago when I was designing these slides. Find a training style, nutrition protocol, and easy recipes you enjoy, so you can easily stay consistent long term while having the flexibility to adjust your workout plan, like you know, move workouts as needed. Like, let's say that you know that there are certain days where you tend to be busy, where you need some flexibility. Set it up strategically for that, right? Certain days where you need like a backup workout that you can do that's shorter, or maybe every day. Boom, no problem, right? You got your maximal workouts and your minimal workouts, right? And we're going to talk about some examples of that. And of course, you want to give yourself the flexibility to enjoy meals with the family and eating out while still being on track with your diet. We're going to talk about the balance with that too, balance in all things. Additionally, this is an interesting point. Sometimes you might have like a 3-month period or a 6-week period or a 6-month period, whatever it might be, a period of any given amount of time where you can actually push a little bit harder than normal with your fitness, versus there's other times where you might need to like put it on the back burner. And likewise in other areas of life too. For instance, so I have a lot of clients who are accountants, right? I was about to say I have a lot of accountants. I have a lot of accountants as clients. I only have one accountant for my business, but 3 months, and he has a team though, alhamdulillah. But the point being, obviously if you're an accountant and you're like, oh, it's busy season and I just had a newborn baby and it's Ramadan, and I'm going to push my fitness. No. If it's Ramadan and it's busy season, you just had a new baby, you got to put your fitness on the back burner. As much as I'd love to say as a fitness coach, go hard. That refutes point number one, which is, you know, what I started this video with, which is don't be of this David Goggins mentality, all or nothing, go insanely hard or go home. No, go hard or go home. No, that's a very bad mindset. Go hard, and if you can't go hard, then don't go home. Just go lighter. It's a much less toxic mindset to have. So I would encourage you all to have that adaptable mindset towards these things. Okay. So, but there might be also periods where it's like, okay, cool, I just finished busy season. We're in chill season. You know, My kids are a little bit more grown up now, or maybe they're still young, but I'm not going to let that be an excuse because I still have the time, or maybe you're like, oh, my kids finally went to college. Now I finally have my life to myself again. Great. I actually get a lot of clients in their 40s whose kids have finally moved out, or they're finally old enough to take care of themselves, or they finally got their driver's license, to where you suddenly have 2 more hours of free time a day, 3 more hours of free time a day, and you're like, oh man, time to get back in shape. Or maybe you just finished getting your business to a certain point. You finally hired all the key players to take over and delegate a lot of the roles, and you finally have time to get fit again. That being said, though, just because you have a newborn, just because you have young kids, just because life is busy, just because you're in a scaling season of your business does not mean that you throw your fitness away. It just means that you have to adjust and accommodate to find the balance between all things. And this is the mindset I want you guys to have. Fitness is not an all or nothing thing only reserved for the elite who can spend 10 million hours a day on it, because none of us even have 10 million hours a day. But we all have 24 hours a day. So there are people who work 80 to 100 hours a week and have 5, 6 kids who still take care of their fitness, even if it's a very minimalistic strategy. And we're going to talk about that today. But again, sometimes you might push a bit harder. Sometimes you might be in maintenance mode. There are sprints and there are marathons. So you have to just choose accordingly. And of course, this is all individual. We all have different circumstances, preferences, genetics, recovery capacity. I mean, there's so many different things to account for. But I'm going to keep it real simple today. We're just going to talk about number one, diet. Okay, so the first question you should ask yourself is, how many meals with the family do you realistically need per week or day, right? Do you need one daily meal with the family? Do you just need 3 to 5 a week? Do you just need 1 to 2 a week? Or do you need multiple per day? Maybe every meal with the family. Be honest with yourself, because if this has ever been an obstacle to you before, that you have to eat separate meals from the family on your fitness journey, we need to do something differently in order to get a successful result. So set a realistic target you can enjoy and look forward to. Additionally, this may change during certain seasons or visits. You might be staying in another country for a couple weeks or months. It's going to change, right? You might be traveling for work for a week or a couple days. This might change. You might be staying with your in-laws, or they're staying with you, and this might change. Okay. I have some travel fitness guide videos as well, so we can break down the flexible travel protocol. You can see that as well. But this is just one point to consider. Now, next up, what foods do you crave in all your different moods? Now, this obviously, if you want, you can sit down for a couple hours and journal out all your moods and what you crave in them, and then write down the foods. And some people actually will do that. But I don't expect everybody to do that, because not everybody has the time. Not everybody has an analytical personality to be able to do that. And of course, we can help you with this. We can do this for you. But either way, we do have a recipe book. I'll attach a link for where you can get access to that below in the description. And you can at least try out some of those recipes, and it should make a big difference for you, inshallah. In addition to that, what other flexibilities do you need to make this effortless for you to commit to? Okay. So in addition to flexible family meals, recipes, having healthy versions of your favorite foods to fit every single mood, and easy recipes to follow, and travel accommodations, what else do you need with your diet to make this easy to commit to, where instead of being like, okay, we're starting the fitness journey again. No, instead you're like, yes, this time is going to be different because I actually have a strategy I can actually stick to, that I can see myself sticking to for the rest of my life, no problem, right? And then, of course, eating foods that improve your energy levels, which we talk about in other videos, all that stuff to help you intrinsically feel gratified by the process, in addition to being gratified by the delayed result a couple months later, right? Remember, we want to enjoy the process and enjoy the result, but the result comes later, so we must enjoy the process today, which requires us to design the process in a realistic way. Okay. So, of course, from there, I have some science of fat loss videos, how to calculate your calories and macros and whatnot. You can construct a meal plan from, or we could help you with it regardless. But these parameters are very important to establish. So obviously, if you're driving or you're at the gym or something, don't necessarily write it down. I mean, I guess at the gym, you can pull out a note on your phone. But if you're in front of a computer right now, write it down like you're in a college class or something. And whenever you get the chance, just journal it out. Take some notes. If you have some random idea, just write it down, record a voice note to yourself, whatever you need to do, so that you can start to chip away at this and get better results as you start, or even just make a mental note of what parameters need to be hit to obviously get the result. If you're driving, though, make sure you drive safe and don't pick up your phone. Anyways, training. How many times a week can you train realistically, and how long can you train for? Now, 80-20 rule, right? There might be 20% of the time where you have to force yourself to go to the gym, but ideally you want to set it up to where you actually enjoy your training enough that you actually look forward to going to the gym 80% of the time. And this might require you to push initially just to build the habit, but once you've built the habit over the first few weeks or even the first few days, you should get to the point where you're looking forward to it and you're enjoying it again. Now, that being said, though, you're still gonna have bad days where your sleep wasn't the best. Maybe your kids were being crazy at night or whatever, or you had a work project, or you're stressed out, or you just couldn't sleep for some reason. And obviously we have other videos where we talk about caffeine intake and diet and how it can impact your sleep and other stuff like that. And I'm actually planning to do a very in-depth sleep optimization video. So make sure you're subscribed if you're not subscribed already. But the point being, there's going to be some days where you just don't feel, you're not in the mood, okay? But you still got to force yourself to go, but you want to ideally set it up to where most of the time you enjoy it, okay? And so then the next question becomes, what forms of exercise do you enjoy? Do you enjoy swimming? Do you enjoy this? Do you enjoy that? Which ones make you feel good afterwards, right? Like I had this one client and every other form of exercise made him feel drained, even walking, surprisingly, but swimming made him feel super energetic. So we got him swimming every day. And in fact, I didn't get him swimming every day. I literally just gave him the idea to start swimming. He started swimming every day on his own because he enjoyed it so much that he was intrinsically enjoying the process. Even though he's a dad, even though he's a professional, even though he does all this extracurricular stuff for his masjid, mashallah, Allahumma barak, he still made the time to swim every day because it gave him the energy to do all these things instead of him feeling like it was costing him energy. And that's the big key here, is it needs to be something, that's exactly the point that I was saying before, is intrinsically be gratified by the process. Now, the other caveat to this question is there might be some forms of exercise that you have not discovered yet or you haven't learned how to do yet. I'll give you the example of weight training. So I've had a lot of clients. So I'll actually give you the client example of one of my clients. I have not actually asked him if I can use his name, so I'm just going to use his initial. His name starts with M. He's a doctor in his 40s, mashallah, 2 kids, amazing guy. He started working out in his 40s when we started the program together. So like literally he had no experience whatsoever. He wasn't some guy who used to love working out and was an athlete when he was younger. He literally had never lifted a weight in his life, but he realized he needed to get healthy and fit. He wanted to build some muscle, everything else in his 40s. So we ended up working together, alhamdulillah. And it was crazy because in the beginning, he was really struggling with consistency. Doctors have the most difficult schedules, food temptation everywhere, stress, pouring out of yourself all day long at work, then pouring out of yourself all night long at home. It's very hard. Doctors have it really rough. But what I will tell you is this, is that about a year and a half later, because we've been working together for like almost 3 years now, alhamdulillah, but a year and a half later, I no longer have to hold him accountable. And I'm no longer worried that when we have our check-in call that he's going to be like, oh, I didn't do the workouts. Why? Because he finally built the habit. He built this intrinsic positive feedback loop and like reward mechanism within himself that he actually enjoys exercise now. So, but the thing is, he had never worked out before, so he had to learn how to do it. And that was part of why he didn't enjoy it before, was he didn't have that positive reference experience of feeling good afterwards, versus now he feels so good after he works out that he literally even does extra workouts to give himself more energy, which is awesome. Even during Ramadan, which is crazy, mashallah, like right after suhoor, during the fast, he'll work out to give himself more energy. Otherwise, he doesn't have enough energy in Ramadan. So he's actually addicted to working out right now, which is great because it's a great thing to be addicted to. But the point being, but he needed the proper instruction to learn how to do it. So maybe you don't know how to swim, you should learn how to swim. It's sunnah. So go find a swim instructor. Maybe you don't know how to work out and lift. You could either work with us or you could, hire a personal trainer, whatever you're comfortable with, and learn how to lift weights. If you already know how, then you don't necessarily need to do this. Maybe you want to learn how to do horseback riding. I don't know how accessible that is for most people. I know it would be difficult if I had to go horseback riding every day to do exercise. But whatever it is that's convenient and accessible for you, learn how to do it, invest in knowledge, and you will possibly find that you enjoy it, especially if you see yourself enjoying it, enjoying the results, everything else, right? And then of course, as I said, which form of exercise do you already do that you can optimize? You can adjust this if needed. If you get bored or you start hating it or you hit a plateau, you need to switch it up to keep it fresh. So what I find works best with most people is a combination of strength training and walking. So strength training 3 to 4 times a day. Sorry, not a day, per week, and daily walking. Usually I avoid other forms of cardio, right? For most people. I have some clients who love running, so I let them run. I got the one guy who loves swimming, I let him swim, right? I have some people who love cycling and bike riding. So for them, mashallah, it's great and it's very helpful for them. But what I find works best for most clients is just strength training and walking. In fact, the doctor I was mentioning earlier, he actually just started running. He on one of our check-ins about 2.5 years into the program, he's like, by the way, I want to start running. I was like, okay, awesome. So we got him running and now he's running, but it's by his own accord. I never make people run because most people hate running, including myself. So I don't run, although I'm actually going to start just for the discipline purposes, but, and also for cardio. It's good for your heart health, but I'm not going to make myself do it a whole lot because, running is going to be part of the 20% that I hate. Like I love lifting. Most of the time, like 80% of the time, but running, I almost never love it, but I'm going to force myself to do it as part of that 20% that I don't enjoy because of the benefits. Now, that being said, though, obviously I'm a fitness professional, so I can kind of force myself to do stuff a little bit more, but like I never force clients to run, ever, never, ever. Because most of my clients are, busy doctors, busy professionals, programmers, IT guys, engineers, business owners, executives, people who they're already being very disciplined every other area of their life. Most of our clients have kids, their dads or their moms, right? So if I say now on top of everything else you have to force yourself to do, you also got to force yourself to run because discipline, because David Goggins, because go hard. No. Point number 1 of this video is we don't want an unrealistic form of fitness. We want it to be something you enjoy, that you enjoy by your own accord, so that the amount of accountability I need to give you is minimal. Or obviously if you don't have a coach, that you can hold yourself accountable with no problem, right? So anyways, That is my personal recommendation, and this is why we set up our programming and periodization the way that we do, and there's different phases in training as well. But here's the thing, guys. At the end of the day, life is short, okay? You want to set it up to where you genuinely enjoy it. It adds to your life. You love it 80% of the time, and, if you don't enjoy it 80% of the time, there's no point starting. Yeah, 20% of the time, you do need to push yourself, but I don't want you being miserable. Some coaches may not agree with me, but you know what? We get great results. Our results speak for themselves. So at the end of the day, if we can set realistic results and a realistic process, you're going to be happy. You're going to change your life in a positive way. And then, of course, real quick, speaking of which, if you do want expert tailored guidance to customize your nutrition, exercise, your routine for your individual parameters, and top tier coaching and accountability, even if you travel frequently, if you have a big cross country move coming up, or any other obstacle, we've coached people through all these different obstacles, and we've taught them how to conquer these obstacles for the rest of their lives. So if that's you and you would like to learn more about our program, I'm going to attach another link below in the description, below the recipe book link. I'm going to attach a link for coaching that you can click to learn more about our program. And if it sounds like the solution that you've been looking for and you want to sign up, you can book a call, and inshallah, you'll have a consult call with one of my team of qualified experts to help you get motivated, to help you get clear on the process, everything else you need to succeed and come into the program and plug in powerfully and get amazing results, just like hundreds of other busy, driven professionals like you. So inshallah, if that's you, we look forward to serving you next, inshallah, and getting you the best results of your life. So tap that link, and inshallah, we'll see you there. All right, so now let's talk about realistic results. It's important that we set goals and parameters that set you up for success instead of setting you up for failure. And the beautiful thing with this is that when you're seeing daily success and you know what your realistic result is week by week, it gives you a sense of motivation and accomplishment and momentum and encouragement because you're on track to your goals and you have a growth mindset towards any setbacks instead of being frustrated that you didn't lose 1 million pounds overnight like these unrealistic expectations on the internet are going to set you up with. Now, I'm going to give you a real scientific expectation for healthy weight loss, healthy, realistic weight loss. And that exact expectation is the typical result of losing 1% of your body weight per week on a fat loss journey. Now, I'm talking about fat loss specifically, but of course, for other goals, like how much does your bench press go up? How much muscle do you gain? We could talk about that as well, but I'm just talking about fat loss for now. It's realistic to lose about 1% of your body weight per week. Now, muscle growth happens a lot slower than that. So usually with muscle growth, even for a beginner, we're looking at like 0.5 pound to 1 pound per week. Now, of course, in the beginning, you're going to gain some newbie gains, some water weight, just like how in the beginning of a fat loss journey, you might lose some water. But the point being, you're going to lose 1% of your body weight in actual body fat per week if you do everything right. And what I mean by everything right is not extreme. What I'm talking about is a realistic protocol that's healthy, that's going to be beneficial for you, that you're going to enjoy, that's going to maintain a healthy relationship with food that you can actually stick to for the rest of your life, no problem. And the best part is you won't actually have to stick to it for the rest of your life because then we can transition into maintenance phase, which I talked about in one of my most recent videos. And we actually have a couple of videos that break that down. But of course, there are some people who have metabolic conditions like hypothyroid, PCOS, other different conditions that affect your metabolism. And this is a genuine obstacle that will slow down your progress. However, don't give up. Many people use these obstacles as excuses, just like how, let's say you got a guy who's 5'6". Maybe he's never going to play professional basketball, although it's still possible, but that doesn't mean that he can't play basketball at all. Likewise, just because somebody's 7 feet tall doesn't guarantee they're going to be a great basketball player if they don't work hard. But again, this is what this video is all about, is about the mindset. If you guys have the most powerful mindset possible and the best mindset possible that you build over time, obviously you're not going to turn into like this, the perfect mindset overnight that refutes the point about perfectionism. But if you can progress in your mindset and grow every single day, you're going to be successful, inshallah, by Allah's permission. So adjust your expectation. Don't give up like these other people do, but still go and move forward and just set your expectation to a realistic level that allows you to still feel gratified by that process, which is 0.5 to 0.75% body weight per week. Now, again, I know that some people might find this discouraging. I'm going to get 25 to 50% less results than these other people. But the good news is that as long as you're not the type of person who gives up at the first sign of trouble, a very motivating statistic is that if you weigh 200 pounds and you lose 0.5 to 0.75% of your body weight per week, you will still lose over the next 12 months 26 to 39 pounds, which is still an amazing fitness transformation. And if you lose 26 to 39 pounds at 200 pounds, you're going to look radically different, okay? If you're 300 pounds, it's actually going to increase. You're going to lose 39 to, whatever 39 divided by 2 plus 39 is. So 39 to like 50 something pounds over the next year. And then if you do it the next year after that and you lose another 50, boom, you've lost 100 pounds. And it only took you 2 years. Look, whatever age you are today, if you're 21, you're going to be 23 in 2 years anyways. If you're 41, you're going to be 43 in 2 years anyways. Do you want to be 41 and 300 pounds? Or 43 and 300 pounds? Or do you want to be 43 and 200 pounds? You're going to be 43 anyways, by Allah's permission, as long as you're still alive. which you have a higher chance of being alive if you're 200 pounds, right? So that's the beautiful thing is you can still lose that weight even if you have this metabolic condition. So I just want to address that for the folks who might be discouraged that they have a condition that's holding them back. But you know what? There's no excuses. And I'll tell you about something actually is that I have a client, mashallah, hypothyroid. He's a brother in his 40s, busy executive, traveling, regional manager for an entire department of a big company. Mashallah, high pressure, 2 kids, mashallah, Allahumma barak. I didn't get his express permission prior to this, although I should have just messaged him because then I could use his actual name, but I'll just use his initial, right? He actually lost 19 pounds in his first 6 weeks, which is 8.2% in 6 weeks, which is over 1% per week. So despite having hypothyroid, he actually exceeded expectations as a 229-pound male before things slowed down and hit that 0.5. But now eventually he's gotten down to 188. He weighed in at 188 last week, mashallah. So he's down 41 pounds according to this latest weigh-in versus his first weigh-in at 229 in the very beginning of his journey, which is amazing. So that transformation will still happen. Okay, had a female who has PCOS, right, and 2 kids. I think she actually had no. I think she had 2, and she had just had one of them. No. Sorry, she had 2 kids. I think they were 4 and 2. I'd have to double check. But the point being, PCOS, 2 kids. She actually works. Okay, busy pharmacist, mashallah, travels a lot, everything else. Lost 10 pounds in 32 days, the first 32 days, which is 5.5% in 4.5 weeks, over 1% per week, as a female with PCOS, before things slowed down to 0.5% body per week. And then she kept, obviously, seeing consistent results from there. So, no matter what conditions you have standing in your way, it doesn't matter because you know what? We just got to adjust expectations and still see that consistent progress week by week anyways. And you might even surprise yourself and get better than expected results. But even if you get less than expected results, as long as you're still progressing at least 0.5% body weight per week, you're on track. And if not, no problem. We want to have the growth mindset towards our setbacks and realize that these setbacks are an opportunity to do better and get excited about the possibility of what can go right and what can go better, as opposed to getting discouraged or down about what went wrong and what didn't go according to expectation. And the best way to even prevent yourself from feeling disappointed at all is to set the right expectations so that you're happy no matter what. Okay. And even if you fall short of a lower expectation, doesn't matter because you can still have the positive attitude towards failure, which is the combination of positive mindsets that I hope to help you with today. Now, in addition to being adaptable about the progress of our results and adjusting our strategy, I also want you to be adaptable to the other circumstances in life while still staying on track. So don't be rigid, okay? Just because you have a perfect plan and ideal situation doesn't mean you have to hit the ideal situation all the time, as much as we'd love to. Shoot for the ideal situation, but don't be upset if you fall short of it. And then obviously you can even pre-plan some flexible options while staying on track. So an example of that is bodyweight backups versus extra credit gym sessions. We do this with a lot of clients. One of our more recent clients, mashallah, he's almost at the 20-pound mark and he is 6 weeks in, mashallah. And for him, his big thing is he's a busy doctor, and not only is he a doctor, but he manages a bunch of other doctors. If I'm understanding his job role correctly, he told me briefly about it, and that's what I understood it to be. So he's like a doctor and a manager of other doctors, mashallah. So very high responsibility, especially at his age. He has 1 young child, mashallah, amazing guy, really, really good guy, travels a lot, has a lot of weddings and other social engagement he needs to get to. And so for him, he's really busy, but you know what? I'll tell you 2 things he did well. Number 1, we set up bodyweight backups for him so that ultimately, he would have something to do if he couldn't make it to the gym. And we also set up an extra credit gym session for him, just like what we've done for a lot of others, especially doctors, because they have the most variable, crazy schedules, where you can actually go do an extra credit session if you have extra time, or you can just do extra within a session that you already had planned. And the second thing that he did well actually ties in with the previous point we made, which is that the first few times he had to go out of town for a wedding, or he had family come in for a wedding or whatever event, which happens pretty much every weekend for him, he gained a bunch of weight and got frustrated and tried to overdo it the next day. And I was like, no, chill out. Don't overdo it. You're going to burn yourself out. What you need to do is you need to be even keel, and we need to figure out some solutions for these situations where you're overeating at these weddings. So he didn't get discouraged. He didn't give up. He stayed committed to the goal. We problem solved through it. And now I was so proud of him because last weekend he went to a wedding. He was out of town for like 3 days, even took Monday off from work, hectic everything, but he still lost weight during that travel when previously he had gained weight during the travel. And now, mashallah, he's on track. He's losing 10 pounds a month. Allahumma barak. So very, very proud of him. Another situation. I was going to mention, so the typical ideal situation with most clients is like 3 to 4 times a week for 30 to 60 minutes and walking daily. And typically we're doing strength training and then we're either going to have bodyweight, home equipment, or full gym access. But again, there might be some days where you can't make it to the gym and you have to do a very basic 10-minute bodyweight workout. I had another guy 2 years ago, right, works at Facebook, 17-hour days when he's at HQ. So when he got to Facebook HQ, he was optimistic. He was like, oh yeah, they got gyms there. It's going to be awesome. They got cafeterias. But when he actually got there and Facebook was overworking these people 17 hours a day, he was like, bro, I got no time for these workouts. So I was like, you know what? Do you take a shower every morning? He said, yes. I said, okay, great. Here's what I'm going to have you do. 10-minute circuit workout before your shower, bodyweight, boom, from your hotel room. Use it to help you wake up. Then go hit the shower. Boom, we did that. He was able to stay on track, right? So again, there are bodyweight backups. There are solutions for every problem, right? And then, of course, there might be days where you got 2 hours to go to the gym. Like I have a brother, mashallah, in the program who just had a new baby. So most of the time he doesn't have time to work out, but sometimes he has 2 hours where his wife or his in-laws are taking care of the baby. And that's his mental health time to decompress from work, from, new baby duties, everything else. So he'll go to the gym, hit some cardio, hit the sauna, hit the steam room, have an amazing session. But he's not doing that every day because he's got a new baby and he's got a full-time job. So obviously he usually doesn't have time for that. So that's just an example of, the maximal protocol versus the minimal protocol. So again, and I'll give you an example for myself. So this is my first Ramadan as a married man and as a father. I'm actually a stepdad, technically, if you want to get into the technical details. So basically, I became a husband and a father overnight. So for the entire 30 days of Ramadan, I only went to the gym 3 or 4 times, I think. And like for a full-on session, which is less than once a week. But I did basic bodyweight workouts pretty much every other day, or I'd say like 3 days a week. I was really minimalistic this Ramadan. And that might have, on some days, we're literally just doing 50 push-ups, busting out 50 push-ups after Fajr, right? And I'm not saying that to show off that I can do 50 push-ups while I'm fasting, although maybe subconsciously I am, but astaghfirullah, showing off is haram. But the point being, I'm not saying it to show off. I'm saying it to show an example of like, okay, boom, just bust out some push-ups, whether it's 10, whether it's 20, whatever you got to do, just stay on track on those times where you can't make it to the gym. Of course, if you can make it to the gym, go to the gym. But if you can't, or obviously, if you have a halal gym around you, you might be training body weight already, but you might shorten your already body weight session, okay? But regardless, sometimes you gotta just maintain and stay on track, and alhamdulillah, it works. Same thing with food, right? Like, obviously, sometimes you may not have time to meal prep, so you might just, pop some chicken in the slow cooker, or you might, buy some frozen meals or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of different situations that we can solve for where you can do better. Maybe just swing by Whole Foods, get some salmon and some salad and eat that. Boom, you got your meal. Or maybe, you could even go to like a Middle Eastern restaurant and order some halal shish tawuk, chicken skewer cubes and just get it without rice. Boom. And I'm not saying you got a low carb. I got a million videos of why low carb is the worst situation for fat loss and why you do need carbs in your diet. But I'm saying for emergency situations where you can't eat low fat and you can't actually, stay in that deficit by keeping the calories low enough while still getting carbs, no problem. You could just bring the carbs down for that one meal, but try to have carbs in your diet overall. And again, I talk about the specifics in other videos. You guys can check that out. But again, the point of this video is more so the mindset than the strategy. The strategies I cover in all the other videos, so make sure you check those out. And I'll link 2 relevant videos at the end of this one. But just to finish up on the mindset, progress over perfection. It's about getting 1% better every day. Whenever you find yourself getting down on yourself or procrastinating due to perfectionism, you got to remind yourself that it's more important to take action than to take perfect action. Perfectionism leads to zero action, and zero action equals 0 results. So even if you got the strategy 100% perfect, if you didn't take action, 100% of 0 is still 0. Versus if you only got the strategy 50% right, you're doing half of things wrong. You're only doing it right half the time, but you're taking 100% action. 50% of 100 is 100%, or is 50%, and 50% is a lot better than 0%. So by being a perfectionist, you're actually getting less results. So remind yourself of that and go take action and keep that progress coming. And then, of course, you can refine your strategy and seek expert guidance either through my videos, the videos of others you resonate with, especially like in other fields. Like you're trying to learn business, find somebody you resonate with on business. Like a great Muslim business coach and content creator is Imran Ibn Mansour. You can check him out. Great content on business. People who know what they're doing and what they're talking about. And then you can also look into coaching and other products offered by reputable professionals in their different fields, whether it's for fitness with ours, whether it's for business with Imran's and, the various other people who are helpful. There's amazing relationship counselors out there. I mean, there's a lot of people who can give you the knowledge. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who suffer from a disease of the heart and mind, which is hard-headedness and having a big ego and arrogance, where they're afraid to ask others for help and, doing research and investing in expert knowledge. And that's probably not you because obviously you're watching this video, you're seeking knowledge, you're learning things, you're applying them, you're getting results. So, that probably doesn't apply to you. But for those who it does apply to, if you ever need to remind somebody that it's okay to seek expert guidance and not be this arrogant person who gets results slower because you're not willing to seek outside help to get better results, the most successful people in the world have advisors and coaches. The leaders of entire nations have advisors. The top athletes in the world like Michael Jordan have coaches. So for somebody who wants to get to the top of any given field or any given result or get the result as easily and effectively as possible, you want to set yourself up with every advantage, including having the right expert knowledge and guidance around you. Now, of course, we talked previously about how there's going to be times you need to push yourself and times you need to chill and maintain. I actually managed to go into that a lot deeper earlier when I went to that tangent, but we'll cover this in more in depth in a lot of the videos. I have some other videos where we talk about that more in depth as well as other topics in today's video. So what I'll do is I'm going to attach 2 relevant videos above that pertain to these subjects, more about the strategy. But I hope that today was beneficial for the mindset. Let me know in the comments and share this with somebody who would find it beneficial. And make sure you check out whichever of these videos that the algorithm recommended to you or that I put here, because they're going to be helpful for you to take things to the next level and ultimately get the strategy for success. Jazakallah khair. Inshallah, see you in the next video. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.